Oh, no. Oh.
Shabbat Shalom. ברוכות הבאות תחת כנפי השכינה, ברוכים הבאים תחת כנפי השכינה. May you be blessed within the wings of Shekhinah. Be blessed with love, be blessed with peace. Bruchim tabaot tachat kanfei hashekhinah. Bruchim habayim tachat kanfei hashekhinah. May you be blessed within the wings of Shekhinah. Be blessed with love, be blessed with peace. May you be blessed within the wings of Shekhinah. Be blessed with love, be blessed with peace. Shabbat Shalom, guys.
Shabbat Shalom. And now we welcome another Weiss sister.
The dream team, thank you.
This service brought to you by the Weiss family.
I start? Okay. Okay. You deserve accommodations. Deserve isn't the right word, really, but you say you don't deserve them. So no, you do deserve them. Accommodations aren't about being deserved or not. They're not about you being worthy of what you need. They're not about you being good enough. You don't deserve accommodations because you have the right to accommodations, no matter how much you think that you're not disabled enough, no matter how much you compare yourself to others. Yes, you should get every accommodation you need.
You've been taught your entire life that accommodations are for the weak, that you're giving up, that you just need to try harder. No, this is for you. This is making things equal. You aren't weak for asking for taking what you need. You are strong for being a disabled person living disabled, demanding that we do not need to just try harder when there is no harder to try. You are strong for finding what the things are that mean you can do what you want to do. You are powerful. Accommodations are not weak.
You've been taught your entire life that you aren't disabled enough to compare yourself to others. But what about those people? You aren't them. You don't need the help they need. You're either taught that you're better than them or that you're taking from them for requesting accommodations. But you're disabled too. You can live your life as who you are instead of trying to pretend you are able, trying, fighting, failing. You aren't better than others because of what help you need for being different, but you can find the help you do need. You can ask. You can get those accommodations. You aren't stealing from others by getting what you need. There's not a limited supply of accommodations where once they're used up, they're gone. People in making the world more safe, more accepting, more accommodating is helpful, not harmful.
You are disabled enough. You don't need to look at others and say that because you can do things others can't, you need to try harder. You need to do more. You don't need to fight to do everything always. You are disabled enough. Everyone needs help sometimes, and everyone needs to turn to others. And you can say, I can't do this. And you can say, just give me this accommodation. Yes, you deserve accommodations. You hear the message of how inspiring this person or that person is, of how much everyone does, of how great people are. You hear the message of how hard you need to work. If you just try a little harder.
But you can say, let me be me. This isn't for me. And you can have accommodations. You hear the messages of who you are supposed to be in other people's eyes. But who you are doesn't change. And you, yes, you can and should still request accommodations.
We continue now with the lighting of the Shabbat candles. This special service in honor of Jewish Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month is an important part of who we are at Temple Sinai. We believe in inclusion not just in words, but in actions. And so ours is a congregation and a community that says we want to embrace, we will embrace, we do embrace everyone. And that means we celebrate everyone. And that means we make sure that this bima and this synagogue are accessible to everyone. And so we celebrate this Shabbat each year to mark and to remind ourselves that we need to do more to make sure that all are equal in this place. It's my great privilege to be able to thank Mara Kaplan for all she does to make this possible in our congregation. She does the work of, 2 dozen, 3 dozen people, give or take, something like that. And she does it with a smile on her face and with a determination that I have yet to see matched by anybody or anything. She is a one-woman machine, and I'm glad she's ours. So Mara, we turn over to you to light the Shabbat candles.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Welcome to the JDM Shabbat. I just wanted, if anybody has trouble reading the readings on the screen, we do have some large print printed out in right before you come in. So if anybody needs that, please feel free to go and get that. If there are barriers of attitude, communication, or architecture for anyone, the foundation of the house of God is weakened for all. Every person is created by God. Each is loved by God, and none should be diminished by another, even by unintentional actions or words. God may see wholeness of spirit where our imperfect vision may see only brokenness of body or mind. Rather than being a burden, shared need and vulnerability should be recognized as the glue of a supportive community. Under distracting surface traits, there is the essential person created by God. Fortunately, God does not use intelligence or rate of growth to measure faith. God knows our abilities and our potential. God longs for us to respond lovingly with all that we are and to be all that we can be. God frequently works through the unexpected. We need to listen, persevere in spite of inconvenience, and remain open to creative solutions and opportunities. I lit the little candle so I could easily light the big candles, and it went out. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kachanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
As these candles give light to all behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we in our own day be among those who kindle light. Our next reading was to be done by Noah Robbins and his dad, and unfortunately Noah got pneumonia again and has been back in the hospital. We're hoping he got out today and will be able to join us for other JDEM things, but to be the representative for Noah, I'd like to ask the two Fellman boys to come up and lead us in this reading.
As God's creations, we are fashioned uniquely, each endowed with individuality of body, mind, and spirit.
To worship freely the one who has given us life.
Each of us has abilities, each seek fulfillment and wholeness.
Each of us has disabilities. Each knows isolation and incompleteness.
Seeking shelter from the vulnerabilities we all share, claiming our promised place in God's household of faith.
We are transformed by invitation, affirmation, and love.
In grateful response, we worship and serve God, the source of hope and joy.
Celebrate and serve one another, rejoicing in our diversity.
Transform and serve the world until we become a community which reflects God's oneness and peace.
Let the house of God be open to all who enter and worship.
Thank you. We join together in these words of welcome to Shabbat. Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShamet, Malachei Elyon, B'Amelech Malchei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem L'Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Yitgadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'amal divrach Yerutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael ba'gala uvizman kariv imeru.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Ulam Me'al Mahia Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yipa'ar V'yitromam V'yidaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Dekudsha B'richu Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Damiram Delma V'yimeru. Amen.
We rise in body and spirit.
Adonai,
It's my pleasure now to welcome Carolyn Turner. Please be seated. Except for Joan, you have to stand.
Telling. What you risk telling your story, you will bore them. Your voice will break, your ink will spill and stain your coat. No one will understand, their eyes become fences. You will park yourself forever on the outside, your differentness once and for all revealed dangerous. The names you give to yourself will become epithets. Your happiness will be called bravery, denial. Your sadness will justify their pity. Your fear will magnify their fears. Everything you say will prove something about you, their God or their economic system. Your feelings that change day to day, kaleidoscopic, will freeze in place, brand you forever, justify anything they decide to do with you. Those with power can afford to tell their story or not. Those without power risk everything to tell their story and must. Someone, somewhere, will hear your story and decide to fight, to live and refuse compromise. Someone else will tell her own story, risking everything.
We continue singing these words, open up our eyes.
Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. Open up our eyes, teach us how to live, fill our hearts with joy and all the love you have to give. Gather us in peace as you lead us to your name, and we will know that you are one. And we will know ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, ושרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
We now welcome Allison Yeazer.
Then God said, "Let there be sound," and divided the silence wide enough for music to be let in, and it was a good groove. And God said, "Let there be overflow," sent sound in all directions, pin drops and children's laughter, phones ringing and plates clattering, and it was kind of good, but too much at times. So God said, "Let there be volume control. Let there be choice how loud life should be." And there came the power to fade, the voices, the annoyances, the noise. And that was mighty good for all the unnecessary drama. Then God said, "Let there be surprise, startle even, at the bird's chirp, the ice maker, the cabinet slammed shut. Let there be delight at the first calls in months to father and best friend." And these were such good reasons for choking back tears that God saw the dark and the light dangling brilliantly from each ear, and God whispered, "Amen," and then smiled when it was heard.
Who is like you, Adonai? Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'edim Adonai, mi kamocha edav kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Who's like you, Adonai? Like you, Adonai. Who is like you, Adonai? Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Ya la la la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
We continue now with Melissa Fellman.
As a culture, Americans are convinced that disability is something they have figured out. How could ableism exist when we've memorized the rules? Don't say the R word, don't make fun, disability doesn't define anyone. Try to be helpful, and the rule that guides them all, be kind. I've seen so many people perform these creeds in one form or another, like the folks who try to do me a favor by keeping me separate from this disabled body of mine. All I see when I look at you is a beautiful woman. I don't even notice your wheelchair. It's meant as kindness, but it feels like erasure. I think I understand how it happens. If you live in a community where disability is framed as tragic and inferior, then claiming not to see that so-called defect feels like a favor. We try to extract the disability from the person because we think disability is ugly, and the rules tell us this separation is nice. But do we attempt to extract thinness, Ivy League education, or wealth from a person? Of course not. We see these characteristics as inherently positive. Maybe individuals hold on to these features as part of their identity, maybe they don't. But as a culture, we don't take it upon ourselves to graciously inform people that we see past their fit bodies, fancy diplomas, and piles of cash. There is no urgency to ignore thinness, no discomfort in recognizing education, no knee-jerk desire to erase wealth, but deep within our cultural understanding of what it means to be a human with a body, we position disability below ability and at odds with health, beauty, wholeness, success, and happiness.
השקיפנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום, לשלום, להעמידנו שומרנו לחיים, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך. Turn now to these words also celebrating Shabbat and reminding us of the importance of Shabbat, Vishamru. Vishamru v'nei Israel et HaShabbat la'asot et HaShabbat לדורותם בריתותם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם
rise once again in body or spirit as we join together in the evening Amidah. But first, we welcome Sam
First, we have a
Scobell.
reading.
Sam, they should all be standing for you all the time.
Hey, if you're disabled or chronically ill and have a hard time standing, I want you to know that it's okay to sit down whenever able-bodied people wouldn't or aren't. Not just in the context of using a wheelchair, but whenever. Pull up a stool in front of the stove when you make mac and cheese. Kneel on a chair in front of the sink when you're washing dishes, going outside to smoke or wait for a cab. Pop a squat on the sidewalk, curb, or stoop. Get a shower chair. It's not weird or shameful to minimize your pain, and it's not worth wasting spoons or energy just because normal people would do it standing up.
Adonai sfatai tiftach. Adonai sfatai tiftach. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai sfatai tiftach. Adonai sfatai tiftach. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Ufi yagid tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak v'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel v'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim V'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chastei Avot V'Imahot U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem Leman Shemo Be'ahava Melech Hozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai, Magid Avraham ve'Zerat Sarah. Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah Rav lehoshia. Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechakel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol berachamim rabim. Somech nofelim ve'rofei cholim, U'matir asurim. Umekayim emunato lishenei afar bichamocha ba'al givurot umido melach melech memit umechayeh umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'emana tal hachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh u'kidoshim b'chol yom yahlelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We welcome Ann Alter to the Bema. Give you sound.
The thing about not being a person is they will say those people, and the price of being a person is to nod and agree that yes, those people aren't people at all. They will have no idea who they are talking to. You yourself will start to forget too. They will say a million small things that sow the seeds for violence done against you, and you will smile and let them. You will do math constantly. How much do I want to be a person today? How much do I want this project to succeed? How much honesty can I afford? How much dishonesty will kill me? What is the cost of coming out? Is there a way to delay, soften, transmute? How long can I survive as half a person? Your dreams will be reduced down to breathing, and you will be grateful, and no one else will know, and so it won't be real. You will become an expert at folding away pieces of yourself quietly and automatically and with perfect obedience. And you will forget that, forget all of it, forget yourself, and then come to yourself violently as someone smiles and talks, academically or hatefully, and there's no deciding which is worse about those people. And you will remember that you are not a person, and you will have to decide all over again how much longer you can take that.
We sing these words of peace, this prayer of peace, peace for the world and inner peace as well. Shalom Aleph.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Atahu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
We continue now with Lynn Rubinson and Lenore Wasiblio.
Shabbat shalom. They say I'm articulate.
I think about all the words that stay locked in my throat, and I give a small and terrified smile and look over their shoulder and into nothing at all. I'm really quite lucky I have such a command of language.
There are maybe 5 people in the whole world I can talk to face without wanting to die, without having a panic attack, without needing to hurt myself or sleep for hours afterwards. 2 of them receive speech therapy. None of them obey the usual laws of dialogue. I know that really. I'm lucky to have anyone at all. My verbal agility is a sign of something, they're sure.
When I'm trapped into a conversation in the kitchen of someone else's home, I stare at the table and see nothing at all, and my throat closes and my ears ring, and the world is small and distant and hot, and I am agile because adrenaline alters our capabilities. I'm really quite social.
If I'm asked, "How are you?" I will always say fine. If you ask me anything at all, I will throw as many words as I can in your general direction. I can have quiet hands, but the loudest mouth. I'm very advanced, and for my next trick, I'll even ask what's up with you. I can answer every question you might have.
Except for, what do you need, or how do you feel, or do you want anything, or is this okay? I can request independently and answer yes/no questions reliably.
I can request independently because I never make requests, which means independence, which means I must not have to, but I could if I did, right? But if you ask me if I need help, I will say no. And if you ask, as my hands fly around my ears and my shoulders go tight and small, if I'm okay, I will say yes, because I can't say no. And if I could, it would mean more talking and less space. And I will say anything at all to get you to go away until my brain is mine again. I am verbose and prosaic in my speech.
I am as helpless to stay silent when you speak to me as I am to move when I need to do laundry. I freeze, staring at my dirty clothes, and every cognitive break I own clamps down because I can't, because there are too many steps, because this has been the summer of laundry wars and I have lost. But there are no steps at all in unhinging my jaw and going somewhere very far away and echoing, reciting and remixing scripts about why I'm not in school and what I did this summer and why we deserve human rights until the tape runs out. I have such a good grip on the English language.
And such a poor grip on reality, going somewhere still and quiet and out of my head while my mouth turns tricks for you. I'm never told I'm impolite or out of place or off script.
Bad, too serious, preservative, disconnected, hateful, boring, too enthusiastic, dogmatic, of course, all of those. And that's just for talking about a show I like without even stepping on anyone else's toes, for being happy, for being excited about something, for trying to share, for saying something that wasn't an answer to a question. But everything's fine, and I'm very polite. I'm very well trained. I can say whatever you ask of me.
I'm very obedient. I'm an acceptable autistic.
I never disagree with you to your face, and you'll probably never hear about it because the gore in my stomach when you tell me I must be very high functioning gets pulled down by the fear of quiet hands, and you must not understand. And I know putting yourself in other people's shoes is hard for you. I'm a forgettable autistic.
As a child, I didn't cry when I broke my wrist, which meant I didn't feel pain. I read about social skills when I was bullied, so I wasn't mistreated. I didn't cry when I was abused, so it wasn't abuse. Now I tell you it's fine and I walk away. And maybe I sat in a hallway for 2 hours the other week, unable to remember how to stand. But I can tell you I'm fine, so I must be. I'm articulate.
So you don't have to listen.
We take a few moments now for our personal private prayers. We continue now as we take a few moments to offer prayers of healing, prayers for those who are in need of healing, but prayers as well for their caregivers, for their loved ones, for all who spend their days working to make our community more whole. As a congregation on this Shabbat, we especially think of Alex Botkin, David Eisenman, Ira Berezovsky, Michael L., Carol S., Brian, Judy Schneider, Murray Reinwald, Ed Goldston, Jonah Hart, Roz Richmond, Natalie Rosenblum, Stanley W., Annabelle J., Catherine Hill Bouton, Jeff Weiss, Ann Gable, Paul Watson, Joel Rosenthal, Lisa Osachi, Patty Amato, Jen Forsyth, Gary Kaplan, Ellen Keeney, Harav Rachel Bat Shmuel Ufruma, David Shmuel Ben Sara Riva, Stephen Bedford, Laura Bedford, Alan Oringer, Mel Caulfield, Jonathan Tabas, Selma Rive, Marilyn Osachi, John Fetterman, Rose D. And from the Zoom, we add the names Claire Collins, Victoria Clavelli, Jack and Toby Bass. Are there any other names to mention this evening? Your older sister's right, listen to her. We pray for all of them. We join together in the Mishaberach.
Source of strength, bless the
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rofeh hacholim. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, healer of the sick. And now some moments for some good news, birthdays, anniversaries, announcing that your sister is right in public. Who's got something good to share? Somebody's got to have something good to share. Sam, nothing. Week 4 in the new job? Week 12 in the new job. How is week 12 in the new job? Good. Who's got something good? See what happens when you leave me alone?
We are here.
It's good to have you here. It's good to see both of you.
I just want to thank Sam for putting together such a beautiful service.
You have something good?
I had a test and I got like, well, sort of like I got like good grades, but just
You got good grades on a test?
I got some good news.
You got some good news on a test?
No, I
Good.
got good news.
Was this on the math test? No? Ah, your dog got a bath. That is good news. Having living with that dog for some years, that's a good thing. Who else has something good to share?
That is good news.
It is good news.
Yeah, personal and puppy.
I was able to memorize the song that I'm working on. It means my memory's coming back.
Nice.
This week, I didn't make any mistakes that can't be fixed.
That's a miracle. That's not good news. That's a miracle.
Is it true? Is it true?
I don't know. I was out of town. No independent verification.
In 5 days, I will be 8 times 8.
Wow. And the Beatles say you'll still be loved when we'll all still need you.
My wife celebrated some indeterminate birthday yesterday, which she shares with Rabbi Gibson, actually.
Nice.
My middle kid had major surgery this week and is recovering just fine with their partner.
Good. Please.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, and Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I, at Shabbat Shalom, in beginning of, the end of December, I fell out of bed and I broke my neck and my back. And I was rushed to the trauma unit, and I spent all of January in there, and here I am healing up, and I'm going back to Pitt. I'm going to take summer classes.
Nice.
So yes, I've had a healing.
Nice. Good. Anybody else with good news to share? Does your mom have something good, or do you?
He does. He doesn't want to share. No, want to share? No.
She has something good.
Rach, you got something good?
I like your dance competition.
Rachel won her dance competition?
Dance convention.
Rachel won the dance convention?
She went to a dance convention.
She won the dance convention?
When there's no well, there technically was a competition, but my group didn't compete.
Did Matthew win the dance competition?
He didn't go.
What's Matthew's good news?
Matthew's a Copra star. What do they call him?
Star student.
Matthew was a star student today.
Very nice. Congratulations. Keep going. That's good. Lynn, you have a 1-item limit.
Plus 1.
Yeah. It's Jan Barkley's birthday on Tuesday, but she didn't want to tell us.
Then we won't wish her happy birthday until Tuesday. But we will announce it at Hebrew School on Wednesday so that all the kids can. This Shabbat is not only a special Shabbat for Jewish Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month, it's also Reproductive Freedom Shabbat throughout the Jewish world. And Our congregation, as you know, if you've come in through the Krieger entrance, put a rather large banner talking about our commitment to the values of reproductive freedom in this country. We've had all sorts of very interesting responses to that banner. Everything from keep going, it's a great thing, to it's too political, why would you do that? To everything in between. Ask me afterwards and I'll tell you the gender differential in the response. Fascinating, truly remarkably fascinating. But the best question I've been asked, or at least the question that's been most interesting to answer, is, so Rabbi, how long are you going to keep that banner up? When are you going to take it down? And my answer is twofold. One, when it falls apart, we'll take it down and then replace it. And two, when reproductive freedom is again the law of the land in this country, we will take down that banner. And until then, we're going to make our voices heard. And our tradition is clear on this one. Women have the right to have control over their own bodies. And our nation doesn't have any business legislating what a person can do with their body. Our tradition is clear. This is a woman's body, it's a woman's choice, period, the end. And so we will stand loud and we will stand clear, proclaiming that freedom and proclaiming that right as long as it takes, because it is a deeply Jewish value, and it's a value that we hold dear at Temple Sinai and a value that unites us here. And so we mark reproductive Shabbat. We pray that there will come a day when we don't need to do such things, but until such time, Boyd, we're lacing up our shoes and we're going to work. And so now we have a few announcements to share. I'm not skipping anything. I'm doing it in a different order. Geesh. Tough crowd today. Tough crowd. A few announcements that I wanted to share before I invite Eli up to speak. First of all, I want to say thank you to our greeters, to Steve German and to Susan Blackman. Tomorrow morning we have Torah study at 8:30 and Shabbat morning services at 9:15. On Sunday, next door is at 9:30, Hartman at 10:15, and at 12 o'clock we have the Positive Painting Project, which is a really cool project to encourage positive mental health. And we learned about this through one of our B'nai Mitzvah students. So it's a really wonderful way to even learn about this whole project. And it's wonderful when our children can be our teachers and our guides. At 2 o'clock, not 1:30, but rather 2 o'clock, our Purim Spiel rehearsal will take place. And in late afternoon at 5 o'clock, there will be a community-wide interfaith vigil for Turkey and Syria that will take place at Christ Church in Bethel Park. Tuesday, Talmud class at 12 noon, and the board is meeting Tuesday evening at 7. Wednesday, Parshat HaShavua, Torah study class at noon. The book group will be reading, it has been reading Through the Door of Life, A Jewish Journey Between Genders. They'll be meeting at 1:15 at 4:30 Hebrew School. 6 p.m. evening meditation with Rhonda Rosen will be online, and 7:30 in the evening choir rehearsal.
So it's at 1:30.
1:30.
Yeah.
You won't be here till 2.
I won't be here till 2. No.
Purim Spiel is at 1:30. Jen Bett, did you get that? 1:30. 1:30. 1:30. Purim Spiel. I guess that's why they call it a spiel. Next Friday, I will be going along with Danny Oberman and 7 or 8 high school students down to Washington, D.C. for a Litzaken weekend sponsored by the Religious Action Center. We're excited to be bringing this whole group and gaggle of 10th graders with us, and we're looking forward to learning about how we can make our voices heard in the halls of power. So I won't be here next Shabbat. Cantor Reinwald will. Be nice to him, please. Man. And Friday, the Brotherhood's monthly lunch will take place at Shorty's Tap and Taco on the waterfront. That will be at 12 noon on Friday. Coming up is the Purim Spiel, and you should start to see information about the Temple Israel trip. It was an email that went out this last week or 2 weeks ago, something like that. There's a website that's live that has all of the information about the Israel trip, and soon there will be a big banner in the entryway promoting the trip. So we hope you can join us. The trip will take place in December. And later in March, Cantor and I are being installed like light bulbs, and we're looking forward to that. That will be on the weekend of March 24th through 26th. To install a Cantor? On that note, Eli, elevate us, please. I'm begging. I'm thrilled to turn the pulpit over to Eli Kruzlansky, who will be teaching us. Thank you.
Hi. Before I begin, I'd like to make a note about the language that I'm going to be using today. While there are a lot of different ways in which people self-identify and or think and talk about their identities, all of which are valid, I specifically use identity-first language when talking about myself. That means I use the word autistic to describe myself rather than saying that I have autism or am a person with autism. I hope that when others talk about me, they follow my lead on this. There are a lot of things that people never tell you about growing up disabled. There are even fewer things that people tell you if no one uses the word disabled to describe you. I know this because that was me. As a child, I was often told how sensitive I was. It was obvious that when people called me sensitive, they were not treating that word like a badge of honor. Instead, they were using it as commentary about a difference, a deficit I had, something that, ideally, I'd learned to overcome with time. I wasn't really sure what it was about me that made me different, though others often seemed ready to remind me that, whatever it was, I wasn't quite like everyone else. The Torah portion this week, Mishpatim, begins with Moses passing along God's instructions to the Israelites. The portion starts with the statement, "These are the rules that you shall set before them," and then following that line, a list of rules. Being autistic, I've always felt comforted by rules. To me, rules are good things. They provide a structure, a framework, an understanding to life, all of which are things that I've always deeply craved. Following rules, it seems to me, creates the illusion of reaching certainty. If I do this right, the resulting that will be right and good too. I don't just depend on rules, I require them. I don't just follow rules, I thrive on them. I'm far from the only autistic person to find comfort in rules. In fact, one of the diagnostic criteria of autism is insistence on sameness, inflexible adherence to routines, or ritualized patterns of behavior. For example, extreme distress at small changes, difficulties with transitions, and rigid thinking patterns. Dr. Devin Price, a psychologist, writer, activist, and professor who is himself autistic, writes about the connection between autism and rules in his book Unmasking Autism, when he says, "We often seek out clear rules for good behavior, which we then adhere to rigidly, hoping they will keep us socially safe and finally render us worthy. It's hard, if not downright impossible, to untangle my desire to always have specific rules to follow from the thought that my worthiness is predicated on my ability to appear as abled and as neurotypical as possible. For as long as I can remember, others have been able to sense my utter terror at the thought of breaking rules. And while that wasn't a fear I verbalized to many, it's fair to say that I didn't need to. Growing up, everyone knew I was an anxious and quiet kid. When I was in school, everyone knew I followed every direction. I was never late to class, I never spoke to my classmates when I wasn't supposed to, and when I was in high school and had finally gotten my own cell phone, I never texted during class either. My need for rules was far from a secret. The only secret was the one everyone else seemed to be keeping from me. I was different, and no one else thought or felt the way that I did. In Dr. Price's book, he says, being autistic in a neurotypical world is often traumatizing. For so long then, and still now, I wasted energy trying to pretend I found life easier than I did. I had the sense that While no life is without its ups and downs, difficulties and eases, mine seemed markedly different than that of my peers. Still, to this day, I don't feel as though I really understand what a non-autistic brain is like. Though I wasn't diagnosed and didn't start identifying as autistic until about 6 years ago, I don't think it's accurate to say that I grew up as a neurotypical person. I didn't grow up neurotypical. I grew up pretending to be neurotypical. There was always a part of me that thought that if I followed the rules well enough, my limitations and my need for accommodations would disappear. At the end of last week's Parsha, Yitro, are the words, "And you shall not ascend with steps upon my altar, so that your nakedness shall not be exposed upon it." In his sermon, One Ramp at a Time, Rabbi Shmuel Silber of Baltimore, Maryland, interprets this excerpt from Yitro by saying, "The Torah prohibits the use of stairs to ascend the altar. We must construct a ramp." Rabbi Silber adds, "A ramp represents incremental ascension, whereas a step must be taken all at once," saying, "And it is now that God instructs Moshe to tell the Jewish people, life is a ramp." When the Torah tells us that life is a ramp, what are we to make of that? In conversations about disability, ramps are not a metaphor about life. They are a tool to enable people with varying mobility differences to live their lives. Ramps are often the first thing people think of when talking about the accessibility or lack thereof of a space. But what if we expand the significance of a ramp, the way Rabbi Silber encourages us to do? How can we build a life that is a ramp? What would that even look like? The ADA has explicit requirements about what makes a ramp accessible and architecturally sound. For a ramp, any ramp, to be effective, it needs to be structured so that the ascent is gradual. A ramp that is too steep is neither feasible nor accessible. Maybe the ramp we build has to start with the realization and acceptance of the fact that we still have a long way to go. Maybe our ramp is in finding ways to nurture the parts in ourselves and others that are different. Maybe our ramp is one that allows us to gain the bravery and resiliency to seek the accommodations that are rightfully ours. I started getting into disability advocacy when I was an undergrad at Pitt. At the time, I had no clue I was autistic. I knew I had other disabilities that explained some of my limitations, but I assumed I would never have the luxury of finding the language to describe in full who I was or why I experienced the world the way that I did. I didn't even know if there was an explanation. Maybe I was just me, and maybe me was someone who is inherently weird and different. The first time I co-led a workshop about disability identity and advocacy, I started my portion of the presentation by confronting the proverbial pink elephant in the room. I stood in front of everyone and said some version of the following. We all judge people, whether we want to admit that or not. Immediately upon seeing someone, we have already begun to judge them and create some kind of narrative about the life that we assume they live. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that when I walked through the door and into this room, many of you probably assumed that I am not disabled. Let me tell you that if that was your thought, that is incorrect. I am disabled. At the time, I was not in the habit, as I am now, of using the sensory aids that I need. I did not wear noise-canceling headphones, and any fidgeting I did was out of the sight of everyone else. I had pretty much perfected how to make my disabilities as small, if not invisible, as possible, including trying to hide any visual markers that may indicate to others that I was disabled. I was scared that even after I spoke about my disabilities, this group of people I mostly didn't know would take that away from me, that they would tell me that I wasn't actually disabled or wasn't disabled enough. Before I realized I was disabled, I felt like I was perpetually falling behind, like I was grabbing for something I would never reach. My autism diagnosis didn't suddenly make me autistic. It gave me the space and the language to begin to understand myself and the way I experience the world. While it is hard and scary to be different and other in a world that rarely values difference and otherness, there is also relief and freedom and finally seeing myself after having only a blurry, vague concept of who I was for so long. In order to come back to this week's Parsha, Mishpatim, and the metaphor Rabbi Silber introduces to us about life being a ramp, so too must we come back to the idea of rules. Part of living with others means that we need a set of rules to guide us. Ideally, the rules that guide us exist to keep everyone safe, to keep our society and world at peace, and to give everyone equal access to resources. In reality, though, that ideal is rarely achieved in full. Growing into a firmer understanding of myself has also been a process of navigating rules, a process of building ramps in whatever ways I can. My energy is limited, and as a disabled person, the amount I have never seems like enough. Achieving goals can, at times, feel truly impossible. But just like in building ADA-abiding ramps, ones with a slope that is neither too shallow nor too steep, personal goals are rarely achieved in one try. Usually, goals are made up of what feels like millions of moments, steps forward and steps backward. For now, I'm trying to be comfortable with starting small and working my way up. So let me ask you, what is the ramp that you hope to build? Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Eli, thank you so much. I have learned more from Eli than I have in years and years of reading books and talking to people about autism. I encourage you, he has done lots more writing, and a lot of it is on public source, and go and read what Eli has shared with the world, because it's really very special. I'd like to thank both Sam and Eli for planning tonight's service. It's so nice not to have to do anything and to have other people do it. I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the program for Sunday, which is our annual JDEM, Jewish Disability Awareness and Inclusion Month program. As Rabbi Feldman said, it was brought to us by one of our bat mitzvah students who knew before the CDC came out with their teen report this week how bad things are for our teens. If you haven't read the report, here is just some really big things. 3 out of 5 of our US teen girls felt persistently sad or hopeless in 2021, double that of boys, representing a nearly 60% increase. And children and teens that are on I'm sorry, my dyslexia is going to get me here, but are gay or lesbian or transgender, those numbers are even worse. So we are this Sunday going to make a statement that every person matters. And this program, we will be painting pictures, and the organization will then go back and screen print affirmative messages on them, and we'll bring them back and we will hang them up throughout synagogue to tell everybody, especially our teens and our young adults, that you matter, that we will take care of you, we will support you, that every child matters to us. And therefore, I am asking all of you to join us this Sunday, because the more pictures we can paint, the more places we can put them, and the more our children will hear us. Shabbat Shalom, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday.
We invite everyone to rise in body or spirit as we join together in Aleinu L'Shabeach.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. We pause now to think of those who came before us, to think of those who gave us life, to think of those who joined together to create this community. We pause now to recall those whose yahrzeit occurs in the coming days. As you hear the name of your loved one mentioned, I invite you to rise in your place. Sophie Auerbach, Sarah L. Bernstein, Greta Coleman, Helen Zimmerman, Ann Darling, Morris Denmark, Sam Diamond, Charles Franklin, Robert S. Glazier, Mary Gold, George Goldberg, Carl Gusson, Doreen Heller, Rebecca Hamburg, Ida W. Kaplan, Abraham K., Christopher Klein, Betty Krause, Erwin B. Levin, Bertha Levine, William Martin Lowenstein, Marjorie Malakoff, Melvin Mann, Belle S. March, Anna Goldie Perlman, Linda A. Pelkofer, Joseph Porter, Ben Portnoy, Andrew Pratt, Evelyn Rebb, Martin G. Rosenfeld, Melvin Roth, Shirley Rubinson, Pauline Brenner Sablowski, Samuel A. Schwartz, Renee Scorito, David Siegel, John Carl Schlesinger, Sadie Smith, Eli Spungen, Sally Stein, Stephanie Stella Way, Bryna Wiener, Fedora Weinsweig, Philip Zinn. And we add to those names the names of those taken from us only in recent days: Minnie Edelman, Rose Levine, Michael Stanley Lando, Irv Engel, Monica Engel, Byron Yaffe, Michael Siddig, Marilyn Wagman Kranich, who died just yesterday. Her funeral will take place on Sunday at Homewood Cemetery. We join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. We invite everyone to rise and join with us. I apologize for it not being on the list, but I'm glad to include it. Joseph Wedner. We join together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yit Gadal v'yit Kadash Shemei Rabbah, Be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala v'izman kariv v'imru Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam lo'amei almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudesha b'richu, ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May God grant comfort to all the bereaved among us, and together we say, Amen. We conclude this evening with the singing of Brave. Please join with us.
You can be amazing, you can turn a phrase into a weapon or a drug. You can be the outcast or be the backlash of somebody's lack of love. Or you can start speaking up. Nothing's gonna hurt you the way that words do when they settle beneath your skin. Kept on the inside and no sunlight, sometimes a shadow is. But I wonder what would happen if you say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. Wanna see you, I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. Wanna see you, I just wanna see you. Wanna see you, I wanna see you be brave. Everybody's been there, everybody's been stared down by the enemy, falling for the fear and done some disappearing, bow down to the mighty. Don't run, stop holding your tongue. Maybe there's a way out of the cage where you live. Maybe one of these days you can let the light in. Show me how big your brave is. Say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave with what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. And since your history of silence won't do you any good, do you think it would? Let your words be anything but empty. Why don't you tell them the truth? Say what you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. What you wanna say and let the words fall out. Honestly, I wanna see you be brave. Wanna see you, I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave. Wanna see you, I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. Wanna see you be brave. Wanna see you, I just wanna see you. I just wanna see you. I wanna see you be brave.
Shabbat Shalom. Join us for Kiddush.